All right, welcome everyone. This is the Bay Area Learning Design and Technology Meetup Group. We're a community of professionals who design learning experiences of all kinds and want to share strategies, best practices, and innovation in the field. So this group has been meeting locally since 2013 and more recently, thanks to the pandemic, online. I'm excited to have recently joined the organizing team alongside Adam Hill, and we're very grateful for the support of our co-organizers, Alex Stretchin and Kelly Reed, who's been shepherding this group for many years. So thank you all for being here tonight. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and also so many folks joining us for the first time. If you arrived early, you've already had a chance to chat and connect, and now we're ready to kick off our lightning talks for the evening. So tonight's theme is going to be about the impact of AI on learning design, how it's changing the way we create, deliver, and even experience learning. So I'm Tara Bonhorst. I'm the founder of Do That Dave. We offer self-paced courses on AI literacy and generative AI skills at dothatdave.com. And we also facilitate live training programs for teams. I'm really excited about how AI tools can reimagine the way we design and deliver learning. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about flipping Bloom's taxonomy on its head with AI-powered creation as the foundation. And then we'll hear from Adam Hill. He is a senior learning strategist at edX, where he is deeply engaged every day with the way AI is transforming how people teach and learn. Adam is going to be sharing his insights on engaging learners with the intentional use of AI in learning experiences. And finally, we'll hear from Bill Raymond. He's the founder of BillTalksAI and the CEO of Cambermast, an award-winning consulting firm that helps professionals stay ahead with AI. Bill has developed some really incredible training programs that show people how to leverage AI in their work. And he's going to share tips on automating workflows, something that's helped him cut his learning design process time by 30%. So please feel free to drop your questions for our speakers in the chat, and we'll get to them after the talks. So I'm going to kick things off. Over the past couple years, there's been a lot of concern in the learning design community about the impact of AI on our work. If AI can quickly generate content and automate development, will it reduce demand for what we do or even potentially replace us? And now we're finding out that AI doesn't just have the potential to replace course creators, it can also replace our learners. So here's a clip from Dr. Philippa Hardman, who is one of the leading voices on AI in the field of learning design right now. So this is ChatGPT's agent mode. Agent mode was released in July, and it can perform a lot of actions on its own. And here you can see it completing an entire e-learning module on the Coursera platform. You can see that it's navigated the LMS, it parsed the learning content, and it even answered the quiz question. And it does it all on its own without intervention from the users. And you can see this agent actually scored a 95% on this module. So now think about the types of learning experiences that you usually create. Honestly, how far do you think an AI agent could get with your content? So, of course, not every learner is going to take this shortcut, but some certainly will. And especially true if the content isn't really aligned with their needs. So this also reveals an uncomfortable truth. Many courses are designed for passive consumption, and they are easy to game with AI. But here's the good news. This is our moment to completely rethink learning design. If AI can breathe through basic e-learning courses, that's really proof that these kind of learning experiences aren't enough to drive meaningful learning outcomes. But instead, we can leverage our expertise to build experiences that demand engagement, spark curiosity, and actually change behavior. And AI doesn't have to be a threat while we're doing this. It's actually a powerful sidekick that can help us create the rich, interactive experiences that we've always wanted to build, but never really had time for. So let's talk about how this might look. Here is our old pal Bloom's taxonomy. I think most of us here are familiar with it, but if you're not, we'll break it down real quick. Bloom's is a framework that learning designers use to organize and scaffold learning objectives, typically structured as a pyramid. At the base is remembering and understanding. This is where learners can recall facts, explain basic concepts. And then above that, you get to application, where you're actually using that knowledge and skills in a real world context. Then analyzing, actually breaking things down, comparing, contrasting, finding the patterns. And then we had evaluation, where we're actually judging quality and accuracy. And at the very top, we've got creation, which when our students are producing something entirely new. So traditionally, we've assumed that learners need that solid foundation at the bottom before moving up, which makes sense in theory. But in practice, most learning experiences never really get past that base. They focus on reading, watching, and memorizing, a lot of passive learning. Sometimes we get the chance to include hands-on projects or like scenario-based activities that brush up against application analysis, but even those tasks now can be outsourced to AI. So if the content at those levels is cheap, and easy to generate and easy to game, we need to rethink our strategies. So what if we reimagine this Bloom's taxonomy and just flipped it entirely upside down? So the idea of an inverted Bloom's isn't new, but it's become far more attainable now with AI. If learners can use AI to create quickly, why not just start there? We can have our learners create something right away, even if they don't understand the topic yet and the quality is kind of shallow. From there, we actually act as guides to help them evaluate their AI assisted output, analyze it, and compare it to trusted sources, and then connect it to their own lives and work. And by the time they work their way up to understanding and remembering, the knowledge sticks better because they've actively engaged with it. So let's look at an example. Say we want to teach our learners about the Declaration of Independence. Instead of starting with readings or memorizing, that's what I had to do in school. I had to memorize it and recite it in front of the class. Well, instead of doing that, maybe we ask our students to actually create their own Declaration of Independence. Then we have them evaluate it. What's strong? What's missing? And then they can analyze it by actually comparing it to the original. From there, they can start to apply those ideas to their own lives and communities and what's going on in the world today. And then by the time they get to understanding the historical context and remembering dates and names, the knowledge is actually grounded in meaningful experience. I think that writing their own Declaration of Independence is going to make it a lot easier for them to remember that the original was signed in 1776. So this approach works for corporate training too. So I recently ran a workshop with a team of learning designers on using AI as a sidekick. And here's one of the activities we did. We gave AI a simulated request for a new training program and then had it quickly generate a needs assessment. From there, the participants evaluated the output and checked it out for accuracy, gaps, and overall quality. And then they analyzed it by comparing it to their past efforts, noting what worked and what didn't. The goal here was to equip them to apply those insights to projects they were actively working on. And through this process, they built a deeper understanding of how AI can improve their workflows. And hopefully, they'll remember to reach for AI when similar situations come up, because they've already experienced its value in a hands-on way. So I think AI is kind of pushing us towards building more meaningful learning experiences if we let it, and giving us the tools to do it, which I think is really bodes well for us as learning designers. I'd say most of us rarely have the time or resources to create programs that actually hit the top of Bloom's by working our way up from the bottom. We're often under tight deadlines, got minimal budgets, so we often end up, out of necessity, sticking to the essentials of remembering and understanding. But now, at least some of our learners are using AI to game those kind of courses. So we need something different. And that's why I'm a firm believer in this inverted Bloom's approach. By starting with creation and guiding learners through the evaluation and analysis and application, we move beyond just content delivery to true active learning. So I think we'll start to see less emphasis overall on remembering and understanding. These are tasks that can be outsourced to AI, and we'll have more focus on building real skills and critical thinking. And plus, now we can use AI tools to do it faster than ever. So up next, Adam is going to dive into designing programs that better align with what our students really need and crafting assessments that truly measure their learning. And then Bill is going to show us how AI can help us deliver these programs more efficiently, so we can all finally build the experiences we've always wanted to create, ones that really empower our learners. All right.
All
So
right.
Adam, I'm going to stop here and I'll let you fire up
All right.
your time.
Is everyone seeing my screen? Engaging learners with an great. I always check because you never know. All right. Building on what Tara was talking about the inverted blooms, I'll talk about how to begin to think about engaging learners around the intentional use of AI. And this is really a common topic in education, but also society at large. Of like AI is changing the classroom, it's changing, it's everyone's cheating now. And so it gets into this idea of like what's worth knowing and what's worth learning, knowing how to do. So I want to start off with this idea of academic integrity. This oftentimes comes with this discussion of using AI to learn in the context of academic integrity. It's cheating. Um, and we often think of cheating as caused by things like laziness and dishonesty. And there's kind of this moral judgment around this idea of cheating. And it gets into this problem of what is worth knowing and what is worth knowing how to do. And it's not necessary. We also kind of think about cheating in the context um, of when we think when we think about training, it's like what's worth knowing how to do, and we often think about this of it's about the output, about what your final output is. And I love what my colleague Zandy talks about, which is kind of like thinking about this other way of thinking about cheating, which is really it's this idea of it's a caused by a problem of misalignment. That's what we're thinking out. I think someone was actually talking about that earlier, which is why I'm so excited that we're getting to this. So rather than consider issues of academic integrity or cheating as examples of simple laziness or dishonesty, we can usefully actually reframe them as problems of alignment between what students believe is important for them to learn, what instructors believe is important, and how those beliefs connect to what students plan to do with their own knowledge or skills outside the classroom. And so when students and educators or learners or when students or learners and educators agree about what's important, um, educators can clearly show how a given assignment or activity will help support that future use case, and students will be much less likely to take unauthorized shortcuts because they can see how how if they take these unauthorized shortcuts, how that's actually going to harm them. Um, and so this is all really about preparing students and learners to answer some tough questions. So if a learner is regularly engaging with assessments where they're saying, why should I do this myself when AI can do this much better and faster? The same learner is likely going to find it challenging in professional contexts when they um, are faced with questions like, why should I pay you to do this when AI can do this better and faster? Another example that comes up is this idea of I talked about this at work, this idea of swimming laps, that we wouldn't necessarily ask a computer to go swim laps at a pool for us, because the point of swimming laps isn't for the sake of just like completing a bunch of laps, but it's rather, I mean, everyone has different reasons for doing it maybe, but it's for things like getting exercise, honing your stroke, maybe feeling good in your body. And so we need to think about how to encourage students to use AI in intentional ways, and like kind of getting to the core purpose of learning. And so we're not completely shortcutting that learning process, because as Tara was talking about, there's a lot of ways that if you think of learning as the sake of completion, there's a lot of ways that we can have agents do it for us now. So if we go and want to get to some grounding principles for encouraging the intentional use of AI in teaching and learning, I propose the following, which is based on a white paper that my team has been working on. So at a high level, we have these grounding principles of this idea of equipping students for the future, of preparing them for lots of careers and places. I think we are just talking about how all of these careers and contexts are now having AI. There is AI, it's everywhere, and that we need to encourage students to be using it, because it is going to be the workplace that they're in. We're seeing those. I think there was that research out of Stanford that was showing that we're already seeing a lot of entry-level positions being cut because those aren't needed anymore. So we need to think about this in entirely different workforce contexts. So, but this is still also about cultivating critical thinking, getting students to understand the purpose of learning is often to hone those critical thinking skills, and to then uphold still ethical standards of how you're using AI, and being able to use it ethically and transparency, while also developing literacy to evaluate its strengths. And this is all in the service of having learners and completers of your programs or graduates who can adapt and navigate rapidly changing AI transformed industries. So with this, it kind of gets into this idea of assessments, and uh, I think this is where we're really getting to the core of this challenge of AI uses for assessments and activities. And I have a few recommendations for bringing these principles into the design of a course, and specifically assessments. So first, to design assessments that explicitly require students to collaborate with AI tools. And this could be creating a process of documenting how AI was used, or perhaps a role play activity with AI. There's lots of different ways you could think about using AI in more of a collaborative process. And then related to this, and is to shift from a focus of a product oriented to a process oriented approach to assessments. So rather than just submitting the final product of a paper, what is the process that a student is going through to create that product? Kind of getting to what we were talking about earlier. So this encourages students to collaborate with AI to produce the final product and document their thinking. I'll show an example of what this looks like. And it's also a helpful reminder to communicate the purpose behind why you're doing some sort of assessment. So for something like a writing assignment, that writing is often a process of thinking and learning, and it can be a very helpful tool here to use AI under very specific usage guidelines, something I'll also talk a little bit about. And then there also are sometimes opportunities to think about multimedia approaches, so using a paper and a presentation potentially to get students to think about learning, not just as being able to write about it, but also to talk about it. And then to just foster an open dialogue around AI usage, because we're all trying to figure this out at the same time. Like I think like that we're still kind of like navigating in the dark as to how this is all how we're navigating AI usage. So helpful to always foster that open dialogue to encourage people to continue to talk about and be able to feel like this isn't a forbidden topic. You can't talk about how you used AI. So when we think about designing assessments that require that collaboration, I have a few recommendations, and it's first to encourage student thinking first. There's research to show that learners take more ownership over which kind of goes without saying, but they take more ownership over their final product when they start with their own original novel thinking first. And then to make that thinking process visible, to encourage them to show how they're collaborating with AI in that thought process, and to treat AI as a thinking partner rather than an answer machine. So this kind of gets into that critical evaluation process. And then to emphasize intellectual agency and critical evaluation. So it's not the AI doing the work for you, but you are really at the center of using AI. It's kind of like, I think Philippa Hardman, who you were bringing up, Tara, talks about how your AI needs you to do the work. You are really at the center of this. And then to create accountability through attribution, citation, and process artifacts. I think I would love it if, like, sometimes I see emails and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you used AI for this. Like, if there was just always a way that people could just cite that it was used, just to have that sense of attribution and clarity. Um, so I have an example here, and this is just a kind of one example of what this might look like. And I sometimes when I talk to educators about this, I think this is the most like extreme example of how to use AI for collaborating on assignment. Um, and so it could be something like you start with independent foundation building and brainstorming first. So this might be building and documenting your thinking through an outline, a thesis statement, and assumptions that are part of that thesis statement. And so a learner might submit like a handwritten or typed initial brainstormer notes and a rough outline for that part. And then after that foundation building, that's starting with thinking first, then they move to strategic AI consultation. And that's where they're brainstorming using AI to refine their ideas and to structure their argument. And then that gets into where they would do that critical analysis of thinking about, okay, how is the AI giving me feedback and what's helpful and what's not. And then they'd submit a transcript and analysis of what what happened in that consultation. And then that's when the independent drafting would start. So they use that time now to do authentic drafting of that paper. And maybe there are still guidelines as to when you'd use AI to clarify language or improve paper structure. And then there'd be some sort of initial draft submitted along with a log of when AI was consulted. Then you think about an AI assisted revision, so using AI to gather feedback on that draft, and you'd provided a transcript of the conversation and a brief analysis and reflection. And then, and only then, would you have that final draft. Um, I know I'm kind of getting a little ahead of me, or I'm short on time. So I do want to just briefly talk about that. You could think about different guidelines for how to, it matters on the different discipline you're in, but to provide guidelines on how AI is used and potentially what you could do in this context for any assignment you have to have permitted context, which is helpful for brainstorming, for example, or language refinement, and then certainly not permitted areas like generating entire assignments or substantial portions or during exams. And then just cautionary ones where you might not be able to tell if a student is using Notebook LM to summarize the readings, and while that could be okay, there's also this encouragement of using that learning is hard and that it's like you need to grapple with difficult concepts in order to learn something well. And so it's important to still caution around the overuse of AI. All right, lastly, I just want to talk about, this is all in the purpose of fostering open and dialogue. So we're certainly we probably only see the tip of the iceberg now, that we're not sure what this ultimate direction we're going in is with AI. And so we don't want to make this a forbidden topic where people don't feel like they can talk about it or they're ashamed to talk about it. So I encourage students to share their experiences and questions about AI usage in class. To explain the purpose and values of assignments beyond simple completion, so they really get why it could be detrimental to students it can be detrimental if they're using it too much. So having these open conversations so that there's explaining that purpose behind why, if you're struggling, use it in certain cases, but part of the purpose of learning is to struggle. And then I showed you that example of an assignment that might not be the assignment you need to do. A student could also propose other AI-enabled ways to creatively use AI for an assignment. All right, that is it for me. I'm going to hand it over to Bill to then talk about some other ways that we can use AI in our work. Oh, and you're on mute, Bill.
Now I bet you can hear me. Thank you, Adam. And I see that there's already some comments going on in the chat there. That was great. Great. I love that conversation because one of the things that we know about technology is that as much as we might want to kind of hold back and take a look, we know that people are just going, there's a lot of people out there that are just going to jump right in and start using it. I guess I might be one of those people. And I've always been looking for ways to not try to take away the good things that I love to do, but to take away the things that are difficult for me to do, or my brain isn't wired that way. And I've always used technology to help with that. And I look at AI as just that, another technology. So my name's Bill Raymond. I live in San Francisco. I run the BillTalksAI.com newsletter, and I'm also the founder of the Agile in Action podcast. If you're in the city and you want to meet up, just let me know. I can meet you for a coffee, tea, water, or I love to walk. So if you feel like going on a long walk with me, I am down. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I built training programs 3 times faster while still remaining authentic to me. And I think that is something that I'll be sharing how I did that. At the beginning of this conversation, we talked about training platforms that people are using. Well, there's another type of training platform where you don't just go create the training and upload it and then market it. There are companies that have training platforms that sell to other businesses or to other people, business to consumer or business to business. And what they'll do is they'll purchase your training product and then they will resell it, kind of like Netflix. So you get a little money coming in, you get some money up front for your show or your training, and then you get a little bit of extra money as people start using it. And I don't have to do all that marketing. And so I've built 2 training programs right now. The first one was this is a company called Go Skills that I'm working with. And I created their very first AI training program called From Prompt to Productivity with AI, where I kind of just teach you what AI is right through how to make strategic use of it. And then my second one is From Prompt to Pictures with AI. Um, I want to just share this right up front. It takes me to build an e-learning course with all my day job that I have to do too, anywhere between 3 and 4 months to build an e-learning course that is something that's self-paced that people can take. With AI as my toolkit, I've managed to cut that down into 1 month. And I'm going to share the different categories where I use AI along with some of the techniques that I've used. So first of all, when we build training material, we tend to use different models and approaches. And the one I like to use is called ADDIE. It's Analysis, Design, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation. Um, because I'm doing the development of the training and someone else is kind of putting that into the LMS and selling it and evaluating, I've basically provided that kit to someone else. So I focus on the ADD in this particular case. So in order to get my training program in front of someone, I've heard a few people already mention you have to do your marketing and your planning up front. I have to do that too. I just have to do that in the form of a pitch that recognizes the people that might be taking my course through the platform. In this case, it's Go Skills. So I asked AI to act like a learning development expert and an engagement management expert. I wrote the first draft of my pitch. And then after I did that, it helped me enhance the language a little bit, maybe change some of the wording so that it gets more attention when people are reading it. The next thing I did was that, well, it's hard sometimes to figure out who it is that you're selling to. Well, why not get that rough draft together, something that you can train, something that you are 100% able to do, and you just want to make sure that you're reaching the right audience. Well, AI has been trained on the world's knowledge. It knows who every title is. It knows who almost every person is, or what type of person you are, or what kind of budget or financial background you're in. So why not ask it to help define the people that your training will represent the most? And we can do that. We can call those ICPs, so ideal customer profiles, or we can call them personas. But I asked AI to identify those, collaborate with me to get the right ones, and then further enhance that material. I then collaborated with AI to identify the modules for my course. Now, I teach in-person or web-based training, but I don't want to go and just lift up all the exercises that I have in my training and give it to some other company. That's going to be their IP. So I collaborated on new exercises and new modules that kind of represent what it might look like to take some training. And so from there, I built the entire course. And I want to just point out that this is super important. When you're using AI, always remain authentic. You have to keep making sure that AI doesn't take control of what you're writing, just start creating things and you just press the submit button. You're committing yourself to doing work. So you better be comfortable with what you're committing yourself with. But at the same time, AI can, of course, help you expand your knowledge and think about things in different ways. So the other thing that I use AI for is to take all of these ideas from my videos, my modules, my courses, my exercises, and help me draft those out so that I have a script that I can speak, and I can really kind of cut down on the amount of time that it takes me to deliver that training, because I am sitting in a chair all day recording these things. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but recording a 6-minute video can take days sometimes just to get it right. So this is a painful process. So AI can help you with that process. But remember that you always remain in control. You're bringing the vision, the voice, the subject matter expertise. AI is elevating you. So just remember that that's the way AI should probably be used for the most part when you're creating any kind of a training course. So just to walk you quickly through this, it used to take me 2 to 3 weeks to get from pitch to this exercises and have something planned out that I know I can deliver. Now takes me a week. Takes me 1 week to do that. And it's really powerful. And I've only had to make minor tweaks and changes as I go along. So that's the ADD part. Now here's the worst part, and I mentioned this already, a 6-minute video. I create my training videos in small 4 to 8-minute segments so people can learn, but don't think TikTok, right? Think there's a whole topic here and you're going to learn that topic and you're going to do that in a short period of time. But when you're recording, you keep flubbing up, you keep saying ums and ahs, you need to get subtitles. You sit down in the room and you do some recording, and then the lighting changes. You sit down in the room again and the microphone is further away or closer to you. You have to audio level. You're reading from a script and your eyes are moving. You're still recording your screen. You have to be careful about not moving your mouse around. Your brain is on full blast when you're recording a training program. So just imagine then, after having done that, trying to edit that video. Now you have to work in this thing called a timeline, where all these little boxes are stacked on top of each other. And then you have to look and see if you've done it right by pressing the play button afterwards. This is a nightmare. And so what I suggest that you do when you're using an AI first mentality is ignore what you think everyone else tells you should be used and find the tools that work best for you. And in this case, I did a bunch of research and found that tool. In this case, mine was called Descript. It allows me to record my screen, read from a transcript, and also record my voice and video. And I edit it like a doc. If there's some text in there I don't like, I just select the text and remove it. See that timeline at the bottom? That's just there for helpful use. I hardly ever touch the thing. I go in, I want to put some text on the screen. I just press a / key and type text. I don't have to do all these special editing techniques. This gets my video production done a lot faster. So my third takeaway here is record with confidence and use AI tools that you may not know exist. Do the research. How do I find out about these tools? I ask AI. I go onto ChatGPT. I say, everyone says to use this tool. It seems really complicated. I want something that's easier. Here are my requirements. Go out and research and give me a few for me to try out. And I download a whole bunch of them, and some of them are great. Some of them are total nonsense. And I figure that out for myself. But the idea here is that I'm using AI now to discover new AI tools to speed up my process. So with all of that said, it used to take me up to 1 to 2 weeks to not only just record a 6 to 8 minute video, but then to produce it, extract that video, extract the text for the transcript, create the subtitles, edit the lighting, the audio, all that stuff that I talked about now takes 1 to 3 days. And finally, since I have the transcript now of that, I can run that transcript through and create wholly new exercises for my learners to take. So they can take the course, watch the video, follow along with me, and then they'll have new exercises that they can try out. And I have a whole GPT agent set up that helps me create these. So then what I do is I give it some ideas, it generates the exercises and the solutions, and it cuts my time down from 2 to 4 hours to a 30-minute review. And of course, we have quizzes, exercises, things to help make sure that our students are learning the material. And again, AI can just read the transcript and help you identify the key points that you were making and help you build those. So that's my ghostwriter, if you will, for a lot of these things. And it just takes out so much time of having to write all of this stuff up. Again, a few hours to just a few minutes, 30 minutes. But the important thing here is that you notice I started with authenticity and I remained with authenticity throughout. I'm still editing, but now I'm also taking my work that I work so hard on and I'm repurposing that material, repurposing it for quizzes, repurposing it for exercises. I can take that material and repurpose it for shorts to sell the training, repurpose it for social media posts to talk about what this training provides. So this is really useful to think of AI as your repurposing tool. So that's how I saved 70% of my time and worked 30% faster creating these training programs. These are real numbers. I did measure them against some previous courses that I created. It's real. This is not me trying to sell you a bill of goods. But with that, I'm going to just wrap up and I'll put up this last slide to welcome back Tara and Adam.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you definitely got people excited when we got to the video editing part. So maybe we can, spend a little more time on that because that definitely started to generate a lot of chats. Folks are wondering, so this is actually video that you record. It's not one of like the avatar-based kind of text to video. You're actually recording yourself and then kind of going in and doing that editing on top of it, right?
That's correct. I'm the bubble person at the corner, and it's me.
Yeah, and then lots of, some questions too about how does that the eyeballs one is something that definitely caught my attention too, and some folks in the chat. How do you think that turns out? I've experimented with it a little. I've seen it do really well, and I've seen it do not so well. So how do you kind of get that performing where you want, and what's been your experience with that?
Yeah, two things. I'm just kind of gonna look. I'm pulling my screen over here. So you see how there's a little bit of light on my glasses here right now. I have a lighting set up so that when I'm chatting with you all, I'm kind of more well lit, but I actually have them adjusted slightly differently from my recording. Eyeball focus works really well if your glasses do not have a big reflection over your eyeballs. And so if you just have like a little bit of a corner of your glasses, that's cool. But I will tell you, I actually sent out these videos to a number of people that have taken my courses, and I asked them to review each one, and they each had different modes turned on, including lighting and things like that. But one of them was the eyeball movement, and the feedback was, you seem to be more engaged with me in this one. Not, oh, your eyeball looks weird.
Hmm.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, Pete, you had another great question too. So can you get Descript to do audio, just audio without your camera on? Is that a...
Yeah, I think I mentioned that I run a podcast, and that's actually how I learned about Descript to begin with, because they started off as an audio only product, and now it does audio and video. So you can do one or both. It doesn't matter. You can do an audio project or a video project.
Yeah. So what happens there, I think, is like, so when you're editing it and you actually delete the words on the screen, it just goes and pulls out those sections right out of the video, and it just like collapses it, right?
Right. It does that
I think
timeline
that's the
editing that I don't want
marvel
to
that,
do.
oh, sorry. Yeah, nobody wants to do that. Like sitting there and like, the timeline is kind of so yeah, it can, do you find that it can get a little choppy? I feel like sometimes when at least when you're trying to do like the filler words, if you're trying to cut out ums, how has it been in terms of stitching that back together?
Yeah, a big thing for me is even when we started this session, right, that I have a little note that I have on my screen that says, take a deep breath, don't use your ums and your ahs. And I probably did that 50 times and didn't even notice it during my talk. That's something that's who I am. So what I try to do is make sure that I use the transcript that I created more often than not to avoid having those quick cuts. I leave in a lot of the ums and the ahs if they do happen, and I cut them out where it makes sense. What I like to do is use a little trick we call B-roll, if you've heard of that, where when you're talking, rather than like you skipping from like you're being here to over here, or the camera all of a sudden just zooms in real fast and then zooms out, what I'll try to do is put up an image or a video, a little clip or something that allows for that transition. So a lot of times you'll watch these training videos and you'll look at the edits that I'll show you and you're like, wow, that's heavily edited, but then you probably won't notice the cuts at all.
Nice.
But again, I think this kind of comes with, when I say be authentically yourself and also let AI tools help you, there are so many tricks of the trade that you still need to have that craft, that ability to understand what you're looking at and how people might perceive that, and really work towards creating the best content you can. So I would never, for example, tell the tool, just remove all the ums and ahs and come what may. What I might do is tell it to remove all the ums and ahs, and then when I watch the video, put some of them back strategically.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think that's really, from all of our talks today, I think kind of the one big takeaway is that we're still figuring out, both, from the learning design perspective and from the learner perspective, it's like, when is the right time to use these tools? When should we reach for them? And when is it just not actually a benefit to the process? I think, Adam, you really touched on that really in a powerful way too, when you were talking about, well, what's like the green light activities for using AI, like yes, go. And then what's the absolute red light, like no, don't. And I think, one question I had though is, how, and I think maybe this is where we get some kind of practitioners and educators start to bristle a little bit. It's like, well, that's great. We got this, red, yellow, green kind of thing. How do we actually get in there and know and monitor that? Where do we, because in our own practice, we can decide, we make that decision. But when it's students doing it, how do we kind of measure that if they're following that? So big challenges all around.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that you can't look at it like human versus AI. I think there's still a lot of people that think that they can outsmart AI in a particular subject, yeah, but not across the board, like in a big field. And I think if you're a student and you're not using it, and you're instructed not to, and your classmate is using it, that causes problems. So I think it has to switch, like the overall rubrics, instead of this core focus being so on you understand everything in math like this, and instead use AI a lot more to solve problems that have never been solved before. So to take away, all this, it's me, it's my efforts, it's this type of stuff, and put it on the students to say, hey, you have these AI tools, now solve the biggest problems, which is the purpose of it anyway, to solve the biggest problems in the world.
That's a great way to look at it. That is exactly what we need AI for right now. I think the folks who are resisting are, kind of, have legitimate concerns. But honestly, we need new tools to bring to bear on the problems we have, because they're big and they're not going away. So I'm more like, yeah, let's throw some new tools at it, try some different stuff. It's what we're doing, not working so great all the time. So yeah, does anybody else have any questions that we want to ask our esteemed panel here? Thank you both, Bill and Adam, so much. That was really great to hear some perspectives from both sides, like how AI is changing, like both the learning design and the learning experience from the student perspective. And it's not gonna, so I don't think that's gonna change anytime soon. We're gonna be grappling with this for quite a while. So. Yeah, well, if that's no more questions, I think I hit everything that was in the chat. Feel free, I think Bill dropped his LinkedIn in the chat, and I will earlier, and oh, he put up those really helpful QR codes as well also. I would love to connect with everybody here. If you'd like, feel free to look me up, and yeah, I'm always ready for a meeting as well. Maybe Bill can take us all on a walk if you're here in the Bay Area. That sounds delightful, but also we've got our video chat too. So if you're not here in the Bay Area, and we really love that we got some folks in from outside of our little region. It's really great to get some different perspectives. I think here in the Bay Area, I think it's easy for us to forget that everything is not AI all the time. We're very immersed in it. And we need that reminder that this is still very new and we've got a lot to learn. So. All right. Anyone want to do like a lightning round real quick? AI tools we're using before we drop off. And if you got to go, feel free to bounce on out of here. Descript. Everyone really loved hearing about that, Bill. Everyone was really like, yes. Video editing is so painful, and it that's one of those things where it doesn't have to be anymore. It's still honestly though, it's still kind of painful, right?
It's never not painful, but it's pain. The pain is so reduced.
Less.
if you're interested, maybe sometime in the future, I could come on and just kind of show you what a workflow might look like, so you could kind of get a sense of how I use it. I'm not trying to turn this into a Descript ad. This is just something I use.
Yeah, I've used CapCut a little bit too. They have some of those same capabilities with the eye movement control, and the text editing. So yeah. In terms of other tools, I really like Gamma these days. Yeah, not to turn this into a sales pitch, but Gamma has really helped me with another really painful part of like live teaching, which is
Absolutely.
presentations, like making those slide decks. What
Yeah.
painful stuff.
I'll second that. Definitely. No more PowerPoint. And you can also go in there and create an individual image, an AI image with a prompt, and it does really great images, just a single image in there. I love that tool. So
Anybody else?
And they just released a version 3 today, right?
I saw that. I haven't had a chance to
yes.
dig into what's new.
Yeah, I didn't really dive into what it is, but I did see it when I logged in to create an image. Yeah. It's
It got
there.
me excited. I know that. I signed up.
Nice. Yeah, maybe we could do next time. Maybe we'll have like a little tool demo festival. Yeah, I'd love to get everybody together again online soon, and stay tuned. We're gonna hopefully be meeting again in person before the end of the year. If we can get that done, we'd love to see everybody's IRL faces again. And so yeah, stay tuned. We're gonna be having some more stuff coming up, and we'll look forward to seeing y'all again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. You put a lot of work into this, and I really appreciate all the time that you've put into
Yeah,
it for
thank
us.
you.
It's been
You guys
fantastic.
too. Thank you so much for coming and sharing today, and everybody who came too. That's really, I really appreciate all of you for coming and hearing us today.